You ever wake up and realize conspiracy theorists were right? I'm not joking. The same people they called paranoid 10 years ago, the ones who warned, hey, they're going to track every purchase, limit every right, ban anything they don't like. Turns out they weren't crazy. They were early, because now in California it's official. You don't own your rights, you rent them, and every month the rules change. They say it's about safety, but you don't cage law-abiding citizens to stop criminals. You don't block access to self-defense while turning criminals loose. Unless control was the point all along. And here's the sick twist. They're counting on you to accept it, to scroll past the headlines, to think, well, that's just California. This isn't just about one state. This is a test run, a blueprint for how to bury a right in paperwork, water it down with bills, and sell it back to you in pieces until you forget it was ever yours to begin with. Back in June, gun owners in California actually caught a break. For once, the court said what we've been screaming for years, that the state's 30-day firearm purchase limit was unconstitutional. One gun every 30 days? That's not law, that's rationing. And the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals finally saw it for what it was, a blatant violation of the Second Amendment. Under the Bruin standard, the state has to prove its gun laws are consistent with American historical tradition. And guess what? There's zero history supporting the idea that a free citizen should only be trusted with one firearm per month. So that should have been the win, right? Time to take a breath? Time for California to step back and reconsider? Wrong. Instead of honoring the decision, lawmakers did what they do best, pivot without blinking. They pulled out a red pen, changed a few words, and called it new. No debate, no apology, just a rewritten version of the same control wrapped in softer language. They didn't repeal the restriction, they repackaged it. 3 guns every 30 days. Sounds better, right? But that's the trick. It's not better, it's bait. A way to make you feel you're getting something back when really they're just redrawing the line so they can keep stepping over it. That court ruling wasn't a loss to them, it was feedback, a map of how far they could go without getting slapped again. And now they're following it, inch by inch, confident that most people won't notice or care. AB 1078 isn't a fix, it's a decoy. California didn't retreat after the Ninth Circuit Court ruling. They reloaded. And what they came back with wasn't some thoughtful revision. It was a calculated move. Raise the limit from 1 gun to 3 per month, then act like that's a gift. Let's be clear. This law wasn't rewritten to restore your rights. It was rewritten to keep just enough of the restriction alive without triggering the same legal tripwire. It's not compromise, it's camouflage. 3 guns in 30 days might sound generous to someone who buys 1 pistol every 5 years. That's the point. It looks lenient on paper, but it still locks you into a schedule. Still assumes you need to be managed. Still says the state decides when you've bought enough freedom for the month. And if you think that's where it ends, it never does. This isn't just about quantity. It's about conditioning. They're testing how much they can take while making it feel like they gave something back. You've seen this before. Rights removed with one hand, distractions offered with the other. And the worst part? They know exactly what they're doing. This wasn't a sloppy workaround. It was tactical, designed to survive court scrutiny while still signaling control. They didn't fix the problem. They found a new way to enforce it. And if they can pull this off without backlash, they'll know they've created a code. How to ban liberty, 1 digit at a time. Here's where it gets clever and dangerous. Most people don't buy 3 guns in a month. Heck, most people don't even buy 1. And that's exactly why the state picked that number. Because when a law targets only a small percentage of gun owners, it creates just enough silence to survive. No public outrage. Fewer lawsuits, fewer plaintiffs withstanding. It's not about stopping crime, it's about shrinking the circle of resistance. They know if they push a law that affects everyone, they'll get pushback. But if they chip away at the edges, limit the outliers, the collectors, the trainers, the competitors, the average person shrugs. Doesn't affect me. That's how control creeps in. Not with a bang, with a whisper. One day it's 3 guns in a month. Next it's 1. Then it's a 6-month wait. Then it's, what do you need this for? Who signed off on it? Have you proven you need to own it? By then, the outrage window is past. The system is shifted, and the burden of proof isn't on the state anymore, it's on you. You become the one who has to explain why you want what was always yours. That's the playbook. Create laws that seem mild, make them look like responsible governance, then inch forward, restriction by restriction, until you realize the rights still exist on paper but nowhere else. When a federal court rules something unconstitutional, that should mean game over. The government doesn't get to shrug off the Constitution like it's a parking ticket. But in California, that's exactly what they did. The Ninth Circuit said, this law violates your rights. California said, cool story, we'll just change the number. That's not a misunderstanding, that's mockery. You follow the law. You wait for the courts. You trusted the system. And the system told you, you're right, this isn't legal. Then the state turned around and rewrote the exact same restriction with a different coat of paint, knowing full well it was a legal bait job. They're not respecting the courts, they're testing them. And while they play games with technicalities, you're the one stuck with the crossfire, living in legal limbo, wondering which version of your rights is in effect this week. They don't need to ban guns outright. They just need to keep the rules shifting so fast, so often, and so strategically that exercising your rights starts to feel like trespassing. That's not law and order. That's targeted chaos aimed directly at you. Still think this is just about California? Wait until you see how this exact tactic is popping up in other states. Same strategy, different zip code. Because this isn't a one-off. It's the new blueprint, and California is just the test lab. So let's say you follow the rules. You play their game. You wait for 30 days. You buy within their quota. You do everything right. Now ask yourself, when danger shows up at your door, how long are you supposed to wait then? Because here's the part they don't advertise. While they're busy limiting how often you can defend yourself, they're also tying the hands of the people who are supposed to protect you. California's police department are underfunded, overworked, and buried in red tape. Officers are quitting. Response times are stretching, and policies are stacking up that make it harder and harder for them to do their job. So let's get this straight. You can't carry where you need to. You can't buy when you need to. And now the cops might not show up when you really need them to. That's not a justice system. That's a helplessness trap. You're being forced into a corner, disarmed by policy, abandoned by enforcement. And when the worst happens, then they'll tell you it's your fault, that you should have locked your door, that you should have waited for backup, that you should have trusted the system, the same one that left you defenseless. You're not just being regulated. You're being left behind, and deep down, they know it. Because here's the ugly truth. They're not interested in protecting you. They just want to control who gets to protect themselves. You know what the rich aren't worried about? Waiting for the police. Because while you're filing reports online and praying for a callback, they're out here booking armed protection with smartphone apps. No, seriously, that's not a joke. There are now services that let people hire off-duty cops on demand. Tap your phone, choose your rate, and boom, armed officer patrolling your driveway. It's Uber, but for safety. This isn't some luxury private detail for politicians or CEOs. This is becoming normal, if you could afford it. So while the states tell you to disarm, restricts your ability to respond, and guts the departments meant to protect you, you're quietly selling security back to those with the cash. And they have the audacity to call it progress? They'll wrap it up in feel-good buzzwords, community-led safety, private neighborhood response, proactive peace of mind. But let's not sugarcoat it. It's pay-to-play policing. And if you're poor, you wait. If you're rich, you swipe. This isn't a solution, it's a symptom. It's what happens when a system stops serving the people and starts charging them for survival. First, they stripped your ability to protect yourself. Then they disable your backup. And now they're renting out the illusion of protection, one neighborhood at a time. And if that sounds dystopian, it's because it is. You want to know the real twist? It's not just the laws, it's the labels. The more self-reliant you become, the more dangerous they say you are. If you carry, you're paranoid. If you speak up, you're aggressive. If you question the rules, you're a threat. They've made responsibility look like radicalism. This isn't just legal pressure, it's psychological warfare, a slow campaign to turn independence into suspicion. The message is clear. We don't trust you, so why should anyone else? And it works. People start second-guessing themselves. Gun owners hide in silence. Lawful carriers stop carrying, all because the system has trained them to feel guilty for doing the right thing. You're not the liability, but that's what they want you to believe. Because if they can make you ashamed of your rights, they don't have to take them. You'll hand them over yourself, quietly and one by one. That's the play, not just disarmament, isolation. Paint every gun owner as a lone extremist until there's no one left willing to speak up. But we see it, and we're done playing the villain in their fantasy. Here's where it all snaps into place. You're disarmed, they're absent, and somehow you're the problem. Crime goes up, but must be the law-abiding gun owners. Police taking too long? You should have waited longer. Try to protect yourselves? Now you're the dangerous ones. They make the rules, ignore the courts, gut the cops, and then shame you for noticing. This isn't incompetence, it's by design. Every move is deliberate, not to stop violence, but to control who gets to respond to it. And guess what? You're not on the approved list. It's not about background checks, not about safety, not about saving lives. It's about managing the population, about setting setting the narrative so tightly that any resistance sounds like rebellion. And now they're selling back the security they stole, one private guard, one security app, one gated community at a time. That's not justice, that's a hustle. And the longer you stay quiet, the easier it gets for them to call this normal. But this isn't normal. It's the boiling point, and they're hoping you won't notice until it's too late. Here's the truth. They aren't trying to protect you. They're trying to train you to stay passive, stay grateful, and stay in line. People keep asking, why are you so angry about this? Because I've seen what happens when we stay quiet. I've watched rights turn into privileges. I've watched lawmakers twist court rulings into loopholes. I've watched entire communities disarmed, not by force, but by exhaustion. This isn't fear, it's clarity. When government can ignore a federal court, rewrite the same law, and punish you for noticing, that's not democracy. That's authoritarian cosplay with a press pass. And I'm not pretending it's fine just because it's happening slowly, just because it's dressed up in buzzwords, just because the headlines call it common sense. No, I see it for what it is, and I'm not letting silence pass for consent, because once we normalize being managed, monitored, and muzzled, we've already surrendered more than our rights. We've surrendered the idea that they ever belonged to us in the first place. So if you're watching this and you felt that tension, that sense that something isn't right, trust it. Stay loud, stay sharp, and stay free. They're counting on you to back down, so don't.